Number one needs to be AJ Debinsa. And I understand there's a little bit of an argument between AJ Debinsa and Darren Peterson. And if you remember, these two played each other. These two played each other in the college basketball regular season at Allen Fieldhouse on a Saturday. And the consensus after that game was Darren Peterson's the number one overall pick. That was the consensus. Darren Peterson outplayed AJ Debinsa. The Jayhawks were up like 20 at halftime, but then Darren Peterson didn't play the second half. And that's kind of been the story with DP. And he's definitely a better, more skilled scorer right now than AJ Debinsa is, but the gap isn't that crazy. And Debinsa's 3 inches taller, and there's no questioning whether or not this guy wants to be on the floor. Not that that's a question with Darren. He definitely had some health issues. Like to act like he didn't and he just didn't want to play and he was load managing. It's not ridiculous to think that. It's not ridiculous to think that. And load managing, Marcus Semien home run, let's go Mets. And the load managing in college is inherently gay. Not to go there, but it's just stupid. It's stupid. That's why college basketball is better than the NBA, because nobody's load managing. Everybody's playing their heart out because it might be the last minute they ever play competitive basketball. That's why I like college basketball better than the NBA. And Darren Peterson brought that to college. But there's no disputing just what the elite talent he is. And that's why the Jazz should not hesitate to take him number 2 overall, pair him up with Larry Markin and Jaren Jackson Jr., Ace Bailey, who was nasty in the back half of last year, and Walker Kessler if they retain him. And then here is the combo between 3 and 4. And I think the NBA knows you got to take ceiling. And Caleb Wilson's ceiling is just so much better than Cam Boozer. These two, a lot like Darren Peterson and AJ Debinsa, they played against one another. And Caleb Wilson was the better player in that game. Not that Cam Boozer pissed down his leg, but Caleb Wilson was without a doubt the better player in that game. Now, Duke was an all-around better team, and yet Caleb Wilson was still able to carry North Carolina to a W in Chapel Hill. Did he get bailed out by a Seth Trimble 3? Yes, but his mid-range was nasty. He's an athletic freak, almost 20 and 10 in college on almost 60% from the field. He just needs a jump shot. And I think Caleb Wilson will develop a jump shot because his mid-range jumper is there. He's not a liability from the free throw stripe. He just needs to practice the tray ball. And with practice, he could be a 33% three-point shooter. And that's all he needs to be an elite weapon at the next level. I think he's already going to give you a really high floor with his defensive versatility and his athleticism, his ability to work in the low post. I just don't know how he's going to deal with NBA spacing, where there's some guys on this list that I think are more NBA ready because of their ability to space the floor, and Caleb Wilson just doesn't do that yet. But don't make no mistake about it, Cam Boozer is for sure an elite prospect. He was the best player on a top 3 team in the country last year that got sent home because of a fluke buzzer beater. Not fluke, but his brother sold. Really, Cam Boozer's brother, Caden Boozer, sold. He was, I think, hidden a little bit defensively because of the athletic freaks that surrounded him at Duke. And Duke did have the best defense, one of the best defenses in college basketball last year. But he's a terrific passer, terrific shooter, great fundamentals, great technicality around the rim, finding the soft spot. Not soft spot, just is able to score. His finesse, his touch around the rim is nasty. Not to mention he can shoot the tray. He's got a good handle. He can be a ball dominant player at 6'9". He's going to be more of a power forward than a center at the next level, and I think he's going to be a point forward. He has a little bit of a Jokic in him with his ability to pass the ball, find the open man, shoot the tray ball. He has a good handle. It's just defensively, I don't know if he's athletic enough to be not a liability on the defensive side of the floor. But again, Duke was one of the best defenses in college basketball last year. So Boozer goes 4. And then this is when the draft really starts. Because if those aren't the top 4, then one of those teams really made a fucking mistake. But Darius Acuff, Kingston Flemings, Keaton Wagler, Michael Brown Jr., one of those guys will be the next player off the board. I think Darius Acuff is the best offensive player, with Keaton Wagler and Michael Brown slightly behind him. And honestly, all of these guys are really good defensive players. But you think about this Clippers team, and you're going to go with Darius Garland and Darius Acuff as your backcourt. Defensively, they're not going to be able to stop anybody. And think about the best teams in the NBA, the teams that make deep playoff runs. They're all the best defenses in the league. Like, defense is a necessity, and you can win with a guy like Darius Acuff if there's 4 other good defenders. That's not the case with the Clippers. So they shouldn't go Acuff, because Acuff and Garland is not going to be able to get it done. Now, they could move off of Garland and build around Acuff for years to come. That's not crazy at all. But I think that a guy like Kingston Flemings, with his defensive acumen, his elite burst, his shot creating, and the inconsistent tray ball is a little bit worrisome, but still, it was it was streaky. It was no doubt about it. It was streaky. He can definitely develop it. He was the best player on a team with a bunch of seniors that just made a national championship. I like Kingston Flemings a whole lot, and that has the Brooklyn Nets at 6. Who do we go? It's Darius Acuff, Michael Brown Jr., Keaton Wagler. It's one of those. And honestly, as a Nets fan, I wanted the Nets to get a top pick. Obviously, they had the third best odds to get a top 3 pick, and they still got garbage lottery luck. But I think any of these 3 guys can be a franchise elite, franchise changing type of guy if they develop correctly. But one guy in particular is just such a Jordy Fernandez guy, and that is Keaton Wagler with his ability to pass the ball, his ability to run an offense. He ran one of the most efficient offenses in KenPom history last year, all the way to the Final Four. Elite score as well. He dropped 48 or something. It was 40 something in Mackey against Purdue. Elite score, elite size. He needs to put on a few LBs so we can be more consistent finishing around the rim. But a great shooter, great passer, great defender. Keaton Wagler is just such a Jordy Fernandez guy. It's just a bunch of Europeans. He plays like a European. That's why Illinois was surrounded him with Europeans. So Keaton Wagler to the to the Brooklyn Nets. And then the Kings at 7, they need a point guard desperately. So they are in a really, really solid spot here. Even though they have a bunch of unks, they need a guy that can facilitate. They need a guy that can be ball dominant and run the offense. And that is Darius Acuff. And they definitely are rebuilding. No better guy to rebuild around than a Calipari guard with an elite first step and a nasty clip on him. Not to mention his ball handling is top tier as well. So I like Darius Acuff to the Kings. And then Michael Brown is a perfect fit for the Hawks that are going to need some 3-point shooting ability since they lost Trae Young. And he's not quite the playmaker that Darius Acuff or Keaton Wagler is, even though he has a high assist total, but he still is a really, really solid playmaker, and he is a sniper from 3. He probably has the best range out of anybody in this draft class in terms of depth from where he can shoot the threes. Not as efficient a scorer as some of the other guards in this class because he's a little bit of a chucker, but he made some really, really tough shots for Louisville last year. I think it is also worth noting a little bit that his low shooting percentage does correlate with wins because they were able to win some key games down the stretch. Louisville was in the ACC without Michael Brown Jr. on the floor. That's a little bit that's definitely worth noting. I wouldn't say worrisome, but it is worth noting. Either way, nasty handle, nasty first step, can get to the rim, has great range, some of the best range in this draft, and is a terrific passer as well. I think after those top 7 guys, there is definitely a little bit of a fall off, and that's where the Mavericks sit at number 9. But I just think the ceiling of a team with Nate Ament and Cooper Flagg, with the way the NBA is going, and that is size is king, this could be equivalent to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Ament and Flagg, but 3 inches taller. Okay. And I think he's going to benefit so much from NBA spacing because he struggled getting to the cup last year. It also didn't help that he was on a team with 2 guys in JP Estrella and Felix Okpara that simply could not shoot. And they were starting every single game in the front court. That meant more active hands in driving lanes. And I think Nate Ament has the handle. Although it's loose at times, I think his handle is a little bit overblown, the problems with his handle. It really is just his ability finishing around the basket that held him back. And he relied way too much on his jump shot. Plus, he needs to put on a little bit of weight and be a little bit more tenacious defensively. But I think the ceiling is way too high with this guy who is a good shooter, who averaged almost 25 points per game in the SEC in the month of February, but it just gets completely overlooked for whatever reason. He did struggle a little bit in March, but I think the ceiling is too high. And we've seen the NBA shift. They're drafting for ceiling at this point. Then the Milwaukee Bucks, they need a guard, bro. They need a guard. I don't know if Giannis is still on the team next season, but even if Giannis is on the team, their starting point guard is Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr. It's just not ideal. And there are a couple of really good guards, LeBaron Philon and Braden Burries. But I think defense matters, and Braden Burries is a better defender than LeBaron Philon is. And although Philon was a better scorer at Alabama, it was a way more high-octane offense where Braden Burries was a really efficient scorer of the basketball in his own right. He was 50% from the field almost, and his three-point shot really was inconsistent, but he found it down the stretch, and he is such a good defender. So I think Braden Burries to the Bucks at 10, and that leaves LeBaron Philon and Steph Curry pairing up in at 11. Quick first step, nasty getting to the cup, leading scorer for Alabama back-to-back seasons. Could have declared last year, but I think it was for the better because his stock rose. He is an absolute dog. I'll never forget him walking down JP Estrella against Tennessee late in the SEC play. Literally got the switch on JP Estrella, looked at the bench and shook his head and laughed, then went and scored a game winner. This dude is a dog. So I got LeBaron Philon going 11 to Golden State. And that leaves the Oklahoma City Thunder with Yaxel Lendenborg, who I think is really going to ascend and be, at the worst, a really elite role player, and at the best, a number three scoring option, maybe even a number 2 scoring option with elite defensive acumen on that for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He really is such a versatile athletic wing, and he just started being good at basketball. Like, the sky is the limit for this kid, and he was shooting the 3 ball really well in March. So look out. And actually, they need a wing. They do need a wing. Like Hartenstein, Chet, J-Dub. Like, the last thing that they've got, I mean, J-Dub is a good wing, but I feel like they have more depth at the guard position, more depth at the center position than they do at the 3 or the 4. And Yax can give you that. So I love Yaxel here. And then the Heat at 13. I don't know much about Haynes Steinbach. Quite frankly, I did not watch a lot of Washington basketball, but there's a guy in Koa Pete that I think is just getting completely overlooked. He could have went to a different program that wasn't loaded and averaged 20 points per game, I'm convinced. And he went off against Arkansas in the Sweet 16. He was a 5-star recruit for a reason. He's an absolute problem. I think him falling this far is ridiculous. He needs to develop a little bit more of a jump shot, but he's an elite defender. He's nasty. He goes to the Heat here. He fits that Heat culture vibe. And then at 14, the Charlotte Hornets take their center of the future in Ademara, which they desperately need a center. I don't hate Ryan Kalkbrenner. I don't hate Moose Diabate, but Ademara, 7'4" in the pick and roll with LaMelo Ball is just disgusting. And they need a center. This is a perfect fit for them as well. And Mara was just dominant down the stretch in March Madness for Michigan. And that is your mock draft. It was supposed to be on yesterday's episode, but we just said fuck it, and we did it today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I love you guys, man.